Hello, bonjour, and welcome to another edition of JSL TV. I am your host, my name is Joel, and in this video we are going to be discussing the French national team who have officially clinched their place in the 2022 FIFA World Cup thanks to an emphatic 8-0 win over Kazakhstan on Saturday. Here are the 5 takeaways from that match. Point number 1, getting it done early. They got this game settled early and they kept coming in waves. In fact, they scored with less than 10 minutes on the clock in this particular match. Kylian Mbappe already had 2 goals before the match was even 15 minutes old. It was an exceptional performance for Les Bleus. Not only is it unusual for them to start games like this really early, but it's even more unusual to see France already booked in the World Cup, already with their place assured this early on. As a matter of fact, the last time France was able to clinch their ticket for a World Cup before the final day of qualification, that came way back in 1981 when they booked their place early for the FIFA World Cup in Spain, eventually making it all the way to the semi-finals thanks to some outstanding play from the likes of Michel Platini, Alain Giresse, Patrick Battiston, just to name a few. France officially in the World Cup with a chance to defend their World Cup title. Point number 2, special Ks. There were a lot of fantastic performances today from the French, namely Kylian Mbappe, who was the star who shone brighter than anybody else. He had 4 goals in this game. He has been absolutely outstanding for the French team since joining them just before the 2018 FIFA World Cup. Mbappe, 4 goals, the last player to score 4 goals for France in a competitive fixture. That has to go way back to 1958. If you were to take a guess as to who might score a lot of goals from the French team way back in those days, it would be a pretty good guess to say that it was Just Fontaine. Just Fontaine had 4 goals in the third place playoff match for France at the 1958 FIFA World Cup in Sweden, as he set a record that particular year for most goals in a single World Cup campaign with 13, a record that still stands to this day. He also became the first French player since Dominique Rocheteau to score at least a hat-trick in a competitive fixture. Rocheteau, a former French international, of course, in the 1980s. Rocheteau had a hat-trick for France in a competitive match against Luxembourg. Not to be outdone, though, Mbappe wasn't the only outstanding player for the French team. There was also another special K in Karim Benzema, his strike partner up front, and boy, they have been an absolute treat to watch together in attack for the French national team. Karim Benzema had a brace. He's now got 35 goals for the French team. That moves him into 5th all-time, as he is 1 ahead now of David Trezeguet. Another special K who wasn't talked about too much in this game, but also had a fantastic performance. That was Kingsley Coman. Of course, Kingsley Coman, the Bayern Munich man, who was not a part of the French team for the final or the semi-final at the UEFA Nations League earlier this year. He set up 2 of Kylian Mbappe's goals. He was experimented out wide. I'd say the experiment worked exceptionally well, as he found tons of space out on the wing and was absolutely splendid in attack for Les Bleus, creating several chances throughout the game. Point number 3, royal beatdown. The Parc des Princes has produced some exceptional results for the French team. Some good, some not necessarily so good. Of course, the Parc des Princes was the site of the French collapse in the World Cup qualifying in 1994, when Emil Kostadinov scored on the last kick of the last game, sending France to World Cup elimination as they missed out on the World Cup in the United States in 1994. There have been a lot of happier days for the French team playing at the Parc des Princes since that particular day. Of course, 8-0 is one of the most impressive victories. Not quite the most impressive. The biggest victory in the history of French soccer was way back in for the 1996 Euro qualifiers, when at Stade Abbé Deschamps, it was France beating Azerbaijan by a score of 10-0 back in 1995. The last time before Saturday that a match was played by the French men's national team at the Parc des Princes, that was against Australia in a friendly in 2013, and France won big on that date as well, as they beat the Australians by a score of 6-0. Holger Osiek was sacked from the Australian national team following that defeat. And there was a familiar goal scorer for the French, a lot of familiar faces who got their names on the score sheet who are still featuring prominently for Les Bleus, namely Karim Benzema, who scored a goal on that day. Karim Benzema had a brace in another emphatic victory at the Parc des Princes years later on Saturday. Mathieu Debuchy got his second and his last goal for Les Bleus, and on this day, on Saturday, November the 13th, it was the turn of Adrien Rabiot to finally get his name on the score sheet. His first goal for Les Bleus in his 23rd appearance for the national team. Point number 4, surgical precision. The French were exceptional both technically and tactically today against a far inferior side in Kazakhstan, as they really showed their might against the small nation of Kazakhstan. France were all over them from the very opening whistle. Even without Paul Pogba, you wouldn't have noticed it because their flow was great. They had 66% of the possession, they had 14 shots on target, and their pass accuracy near perfect at 91%. Point number 5, stretching the play out wide, stretching the sidelines. France had 2 exceptional wingers who were phenomenal today. That was Theo Hernandez on one side. On the opposite side, it was Kingsley Coman. Both of them had a pair of assists for Les Bleus. They really utilized those pockets of space in the midfield, and Antoine Griezmann as well played a great job in the link-up play. He was the up-high midfielder in between the 2 strikers of Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema, and the 4 midfielders in behind. Griezmann got rewarded eventually. He's taken a smaller role on the French team since the re-emergence of Karim Benzema, but he scored again for France from the penalty spot, a late strike for Antoine Griezmann, as he now has 42 goals for Les Bleus. That moves him into 3rd all-time over a certain Michel Platini. The French were exceptional today in virtually every aspect of the game. Those are my 5 takeaways. What are your thoughts? Who, in your opinion, was the man of the match for Les Bleus? There were several candidates who you could argue were the best player for France on this Saturday. Is the fact that they were playing against Kazakhstan, does that put a little bit of an asterisk on this performance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Of course, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Comment if you have any suggestions on videos or content that you would like to hear about in the future. France taking on Finland in their final World Cup qualifier on Tuesday from Helsinki. Thank you again for watching, everybody. And of course, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, check out more quality French content in the future.